27 News, WKOW. Here's what's happening right now.
Moving forward, how the community in Sutherland Springs, Texas is coping 1 week after the deadliest mass shooting at a church in U.S. history. Plus, updating the jail, why Dane County's sheriff says it has to happen, and how some board members will vote on the plan or feeling about the big price tag to fix it.
You just never know when they're going to happen within your community or close by.
A local police sergeant reacts to the death of a Rockford police officer, how he honored the fallen officer at a memorial this weekend.
We've got you covered. This is 27 News at 10.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jennifer Cleasy. Today marks 1 week since a man shot and killed 26 people inside a small Texas church. About 1,000 people gathered today to pray for and honor the victims. Marcus Moore has you covered tonight on how families, friends, and the community are coping 1 week later.
Hundreds streaming out of a white tent. This makeshift church in the tiny Texas town of Sutherland Springs. Hugging and crying after the first Sunday service since a gunman stormed the First Baptist Church and killed more than 24 people in the worst mass shooting in Texas history.
It was beautifully explained, beautifully done to honor everyone that had passed and to give hope to everyone.
26 chairs inside the church reflecting the official death toll because one of the victims was pregnant. Pastor Frank Pomeroy called on mourners to worship in the face of evil.
To see Pastor Pomeroy and his wife there having lost their 14-year-old daughter, and to hear his inspirational words. I saw him standing there at the front of the church comforting others, and he lost his 14-year-old daughter.
Annabelle Pomeroy was just 14 years old. Church members and volunteers constructed the tent for Sunday service in a baseball field, serving as a temporary home for the congregation that used to number a few dozen, but today welcomed as many as 1,000 worshipers. Church officials have announced that the original church building will be turned into an indoor memorial that first opens to the public Sunday evening. Marcus Moore, ABC News, Sutherland Springs, Texas.
One Madison church has increased security during services after the attack. High Point Church hired security guards carrying concealed weapons today. It's not regular practice, but church officials say it's not the first time they've done this after a national tragedy. High Point Church held a meeting for members this morning to talk about security measures.
It was just an informational meeting on that there's a process going on, that there's discussion happening about security for the church and where things are at right now and things that they would like to implement later on.
High Point Church members are expected to vote on a proposal that would allow certain highly trained members of the church to carry concealed weapons at every service. A date for that vote is not yet set.
Some haze and fog forming late tonight, and that's all because as that cold front passed by, we have some lingering moisture in the low levels of the atmosphere, and again, that's going to cause issues for the morning rush tomorrow as well. So we start off with our live look from the WKOW tower, and you can see some of the haze and the lights. So it's not too bad in Madison. Right now, we're down to 6 miles visibility. Winds are calm, skies are clear, temps are cold, and all that heat's escaping into the atmosphere. So that's going to give us a recipe for that low-level moisture in the form of some fog or freezing fog even. And there's the advisories I was talking about going until 10 o'clock, not Sunday, but Monday. And that's for our southern 2 tiers of communities, or southern 2 tiers of counties, rather. And the temperatures, again, at or below freezing, meaning that there could be some frost that forms with this fog, causing for some slippery stretches. So, again, looking like some concerns tonight in the form of some fog as temperatures get to the mid-20s. Now, yes, it is a little cold tonight, that's for sure. But we are talking about a milder trend ahead. And we'll outline those in greater detail coming up here in a few minutes.
All right, we will check back. Thank you, Max.
Okay.
A 14-year-old is recovering after police say he was beat up and robbed last night. Police say he was walking in the 2200 block of Park Street in Madison when a car pulled out in front of him. The victim told police 2 suspects punched him in the face and took his belt, phone, wallet, and backpack. They got back in the car and took off. A developing story in the Middle East tonight. Iranian officials say at least 100 people are dead and more than 1,000 are hurt after a massive earthquake shook parts of Iraq and Iran. The earthquake measured a 7.3 magnitude. Shocks were felt in surrounding countries, too. Officials say the death toll is likely to rise. President Trump is on the last leg of his Asian diplomatic trip. The president arrived in the Philippines earlier today to have dinner with President Rodrigo Duterte. He also raised attention for speaking with Russian President Vladimir Putin at the ASEAN summit. Both presidents have denied collusion allegations. Meanwhile, thousands of demonstrators took to the streets of Manila protesting President Trump's visit by burning U.S. flags and shutting down several streets in that city. The Philippine government stepped up security in preparation for the summit. More than 130,000 Puerto Ricans have arrived in Florida since Hurricane Maria hit the island territory about a month ago. The island is still largely without power and basic amenities and has become a political sticking point with experts who anticipate a shakeup in the near future. Two Wisconsin veterans are speaking out about the national anthem controversy in the NFL. Richard Fish and John Lazars say they're both boycotting the NFL as players protest the anthem. They say it's disrespectful and they don't enjoy watching games anymore, so they're done with the NFL.
Would I sit down and watch it and enjoy the game? Yes, I did. But when this started happening, it totally turned me off.
The men say they believe in freedom of speech, but there is a time and place for it. They aim to continue bringing awareness to the issue. The school board in Milton plans to meet tomorrow to discuss how to move forward after voters turned down a referendum aiming to tackle overcrowding. The nearly $70 million referendum would have paid for a new high school and turned the current one into a middle school. The district has seen a 22% increase in students in the last 15 years. There are 125 new students in just the past 3 years. This week, the McFarland community will have a new way to honor an officer who died on duty 2 years ago. A memorial pays tribute to K-9 officer Ryan Copeland and honors his dedication to the community, along with the other law enforcement officers who paid the ultimate sacrifice. A dedication ceremony is at noon Wednesday at the McFarland Municipal Center. A Janesville police sergeant was given the special honor of paying his respects to a police officer killed in the line of duty in Rockford. Rockford police asked Sergeant Dean Sukas if he and his nephew would play taps at Officer Jamie Cox's funeral yesterday. Sukas gladly agreed. He says Officer Cox's death touched thousands of people around the region who also showed up to line the procession route yesterday.
We all come together in times of need, and it was great to be a small part in the honoring of Officer Cox and the way that he risked his life and ultimately died in the line of duty.
Officer Cox was killed last weekend during a traffic stop when the person he had pulled over tried to get away, killing him with his car. Dane County's sheriff is hoping officials will approve a plan to update an aging jail. The proposal is set for a vote next week. New tonight, David Johnson tells us about the sheriff's concerns and how some board members are feeling about the big price tag to fix it.
Jen Mahoney says the problem with the jails is something that can no longer be ignored. The current facility not only puts inmates at risk, but could also cost taxpayers if something goes wrong.
The Dane County Board of Supervisors will decide soon whether to spend $76 million to update the Dane County Jail. The proposal calls for consolidating jails in the City-County building and the Ferris Center into a smaller facility in the Public Safety building.
So the $76 million will replace the top 2 floors of the City-County building.
The plan would also eliminate solitary confinement and reduce 91 beds from the facility.
It will create the medical and mental health beds that we need to address the population with medical conditions.
For Sheriff David Mahoney, the urgency to renovate the jail is high, saying multiple administrations have talked about safety challenges only to have them fall on deaf ears.
Specifically, we have locks that have failed to open when we need to get individuals out of their cell blocks.
But not everyone is on board with the plan. Supervisor Heidi Wegleitner says on her blog, it's not the right time to invest this massive amount of money into a broken criminal justice system. But Supervisor Paul Russ says if the jail problem isn't resolved soon, it puts Dane County taxpayers at a significant risk.
All it takes is one major lawsuit, and you will end up exceeding the insurance that we have for lawsuits.
And the county board will vote on the plan during the November 20th meeting. Jen?
Thank you, David. Meanwhile, the Madison Common Council plans to take comments from the public tomorrow on the city budget. The council will look at the capital and operating budgets. Those include funding for a body camera pilot program for Madison Police and funding for a public market. Runners take their mark. Why organizers of the Madison Marathon say the hardest part isn't the running, but the planning. And Kevin Spacey is under criminal investigation. What allegations are causing law enforcement to take a closer look.